Okay, friends, come along with us as we go on tour underground in the old city of Jerusalem in the Jewish quarter. We're going to the Burnt House and we're going to a place called the Herodian Quarter. We're going to do this as part of our investigation into the true location of the temple as part of our Jerusalem tours as well. Now, if you're not familiar with the various locations and quarters in the old city of Jerusalem, what we have here is the Temple Mount. What we have here is the Muslim quarter, the Jewish quarter, which we're going to look at in this video, the Christian quarter here, and the Armenian quarter here. Down below here is Mount Zion. So we're going to look at some sites underground in the Jewish quarter here. Here we are at the Burnt House, which you can see there. And if we look on a map, in GPS, you can see where we're located. Okay, so in zooming out, you can see some of the things, the Western Wall, Dung Gate. So these are things that are remains of housing.
During the Second Temple, the rich priests of Jerusalem resided here. This area was described as the Upper City. In the year 70 AD, 3,830 years after creation, the land of Israel is occupied by the Romans. The Jews have been fighting the Romans for 4 years now. The war is getting closer. Roman troops are camped around Jerusalem. The city is divided between Sadducees and Pharisees, rich and poor, zealots and moderates. A civil war breaks out in Jerusalem, and as the sages said, Jerusalem was destroyed because of futile hatred. In the month of Nisan, the gates are closed. On the 9th of Av, the Romans break into Temple Mount, burn the temple, and take over the lower city, where the masses reside. A month later, on the 8th of Elul, the Roman legions storm into the wealthy part of Jerusalem, the Upper City, burning it to the ground and killing its residents. About 1,900 years later, in 1967, during the Six-Day War, the IDF forces liberate the old city and Temple Mount. The Israeli government establishes the Company for the Reconstruction and Development of the Jewish Quarter to rebuild and repopulate the destroyed quarter. Soon they find here, right where you are, some walls. The excavation delegation of the quarter, headed by Professor Nachman Avigad from the Hebrew University, was rushed to examine the ruins. The researchers found they were at the basement of a house whose upper floor had collapsed. Among the rubble they found burnt stones, charred beams, and broken, charred wooden and stone artifacts. They were clearly the remnants of a residential house burnt in a huge fire. The excavator's imagination was fired up. Is this the Roman legion's fire that had burnt Jerusalem 1,900 years ago? The evidence found among the ashes of the charred beams included, among other things, an iron spearhead next to the severed arm of a young girl, which added drama to the findings. Here in the basement, we found on site many stone artifacts, tables, cups, stone and basalt grinding tools, and stone weights. According to the Halakha, stone artifacts cannot be defiled, and this is why they were used in the houses of the temple priests. One of the weights bore the inscription Barei Katros. Another stone weight I found here during the excavation completed the partial inscription with the words Nadbarei Katros. Nadbari and Katros are synonyms in Persian and ancient Greek, translated as the holder of cane or the holder of the quill. The Cutros family was one of the priestly families who served in the temple, responsible for weights and measurements. They are mentioned in the Babylonian Talmud, the tractate Psachim, and not in a positive light. Woe to thee, due to the house of Cutros. Woe to thee, due to their quill, was said with a sigh.
Okay, in this video, friends, we are going to look at something called the Herodian quarter. And there we're pointing out the buildings and foundations that are underground in the modern-day Jewish quarter of the old city of Jerusalem. There's the Temple Mount and Robinson's Arch. This is the Pool of Siloam Road that just opened up a few weeks ago. Okay, Robinson's Arch. And this is called the Herodian quarter. And we're going to look at it. There's Herod's palace there on the top left. Hopefully you watched that video. There's Wilson's Arch that connected to Herod's palace. And we have an area which we're going to go on tour and share with you and show you this wonderful museum and all these amazing findings. And at the same time, we're investigating this as a potential for the location of the temple. So the purpose of this, we will do two things. We will look at these buildings. It's quite interesting. The modern buildings, if have to do excavations, and if they find things, they preserve the excavations underground, below the buildings in the basement, and they build the buildings above them. So this is the area called the Jewish Quarter. The area in red is a museum, essentially, that's below other buildings in the Jewish Quarter. So I hope you enjoyed the tour. And also, we are, again, continuing to do our research underground in the old city of Jerusalem to evaluate the potential for the location of the temple. Now we're going to look at the Herodian quarter in the War Museum. And as we look at our GPS coordinates, we can focus. Okay. This is where we are now presently within the Jewish quarter. Alright, here we have a description. Only the basement of this house has been preserved, which contains water installations, ritual baths, bathrooms, pools, cisterns, steps above the vaulted entrance to a ritual bath. Okay, that's kind of what we showed you, what we saw over there. Okay, we do have mosaics. I don't know if they're going to describe those to us, but original plaster. Look at that red. The border and the yellow. Amazing. Clearly a Roman drainage channel that you would see through the cities. Mosaics in that red color we know to be at the time of Herod, and have seen evidence of that in Masada. Alright, here's a map of many of the areas and facilities. As we look here, okay, we have Roman Byzantine pottery vessels, okay, bearing seal impressions with the 10th Roman Legion, a game board. Okay, so that's what some of these are. Okay, we've seen these before. 10th Roman Legion. 10th Roman Legion. So these are things that we would have anticipated happening after the destruction, and the 10th Roman Legion is then living in the area. Okay, now we're looking at some jar handles, and jar handles, 8th century BC, bearing seal impressions containing inscriptions Lamulek, belonging to the king. Okay, so that's what we can see here. Within these jar handles. We also appear to have some idols, statues, the very things they're told not to do. Pottery, oil lamps. So this is where we are now, and they're saying period of First Temple. Now this is Hasmonean period of what they're saying these are, okay? And these would be more 2nd and 1st century BCE. Oh, here's a Hebrew inscription. We'll have to see what this says. Jar handles stamped with the names Yehud or Judah and Jerusalem, written between the points of a star. Wow, that's amazing. There's the star. Measuring cups. This one with 3 compartments. Weights and measures. And what that sign says, Egyptian alabaster-shaped vessel of green serpentine. And sundials. That's interesting. Stone weights. Okay. So here is a sundial. And another one. This one appears to have maybe some hole in it where a stick was placed to cast a shadow. I'm not sure. Fascinating. This is amazing. This is an old menorah. And next to it is a incense altar. The menorah 7 branch, next to it, a table for showbread, and an altar. Insights on the plaza, the earliest detailed representation of the menorah symbol dating from the time of the original menorah was still in the temple. So they're saying this is First Temple. Now what's unique is the legs go down in a triangular fashion. The Arch of Tisus has more of a base to it. But apparently what they're saying is there's a small altar and a table of showbread. Nice close-up of this mosaic, some of the pottery, table. Then a bathtub. And again, the troughs holding the water. Which are also running along here.
Please don't stay
And another bath. And mikvah. Examples of the colored plaster. We've seen that in Masada. Lamps and perfume bottles. Think of Esther's preparation and the virgins. Let your lamps be burning. Now this is fascinating because we have excellent examples of lamps in a description here. Exceptionally large lamp of Ephesos type, 1st century BCE. So that is that one there in the back. Number 3, over to our left, a local Herodian lamps, 1st century CE. And these imported Roman lamps, 1st century BCE. Ink pots, just that one in the back, and perfume bottles and vases. And below we have spindle whorls, cosmetic spoons, sticks, pins, handles, dice. Right here we have a large hall for receptions and other examples like Herodian period from Masada and Herodian. Wow, look at this model. Alright, so what we have here is all the stuff, or not all of it, but the place where we're at. Various living quarters, pottery, cooking, wealthy residents, the rendition of the mikvahs, how they're covered and they go down. Outside roads, room of pillars, dining hall maybe, and another road. Okay, so this is the destruction in the upper city. Traces of conflagration were found in parts of the building. Charred wooden beams which collapsed under the ceiling. The burnt mosaic bear witness to great fire. So these are some of the charred remains that were found and discovered at the destruction. See the black there? Also there from the fire. So the ceilings had wood beams supporting them, and those caused the ceilings to collapse. And here we can see more of the area where the people lived, and it's really amazing, guys, to go to these places. And I'm hoping that you're not looking at this as just, another museum, but it's really like going back into time of the people of the Bible. And then so this entire area is a very rich, affluent area, kind of set off from the poor, and you can see very ornate mosaics and beautiful living quarters and plumbing and water, and you can see this is clearly living quarters. But you also have the story of the scriptures coming to life, where we see the actual tiles that the people had. There we can see the proximity to the Dome of the Rock and the Temple Mount there. But the story of the destruction 70 AD is apparent in here. We can see the fire, the burnt marks on the wall, the charred wood. So the story of the scriptures really come to life. All right, we have coins here. This one here, King Agrippa. King Herod, year 3. Freedom of Zion. Year 2. They minted those when they were looking for redemption of Zion. Year 3, Freedom of Zion. So these were ones minted just prior to the destruction of Jerusalem. Holy Jerusalem. Shekel of Israel, year 4. It says Holy Jerusalem. Year 2, Holy Jerusalem. So what have we learned? We have learned that through pictures like this Jewish quarter was in fact a housing area. And we've learned from the seal of Nathan Melech, which you see here, that that is actually where the temple was, in the city of David. So the research by Dr. Martin and everything that he did to show us that down below to our right here in the city of David is in fact where the temple was located. So we have looked underground in the Jewish quarter and seen housing, Herodian quarters. So thanks for watching, and please watch the playlist True Location of the Temple.